Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
We're going to have our midrash style or discussion style Torah study for today. And the portion for today is Vayikra, which is Leviticus, chapters 1 through chapter 5. And what verses it end on in chapter 5?
26. Or it says in parentheses 6 and 7, but it says 5 and 26.
Yeah, chapter 5, verse 26 is where it ends. So I thought maybe we'd take turns reading today.
Okay.
And I'll get started. So I'm in Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 1. I'll start in verse 1. Today I'm reading from the Stone edition of the Humash, the Mark Scroll. And I also will be referencing J.P. Green's Interlineary, which is a literal translation. I really like it. Okay. He called to Moses, and Yahweh spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, I'm going to switch. Let me pause. There's several things I like better about this. J.P. Green's. And I remembered in the very first verse why. Here we go. And Yahweh called to Moses and spoke to him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, if any one of you brings an offering to Yahweh from the livestock of the herd or from the flock, you shall bring near your offering. If his offering is out of the herd, a male, a perfect one, he shall bring it to the opening of the tabernacle of the congregation at his pleasure before the face of Yahweh. And he shall lay his hand on the head of the burnt offering. It is accepted for him to make atonement for him. And he shall kill the son of the herd before the face of Yahweh. And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall bring near the blood and sprinkle the blood on the altar all around, which is at the opening of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall skin the burnt offering and shall cut it into its pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire on the altar and arrange wood on the fire. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall arrange the pieces with the head and the fat on the wood which is on the fire, which is on the altar. And he shall wash its inner parts and its legs with water, and the priest shall burn as incense the whole of it on the altar for a burnt offering, a fire offering of soothing fragrance to Yahweh. May he be blessed. So my paragraph ends in verse 9 right there, which is a good place to discuss the first 9 verses. So Olah, as we've been talking about, is a burnt offering or a whole burnt offering. It's part of, it can be a bull, a ram, or turtle doves. And every one of the categories are all called a soothing fragrance. Hannah, do you have anything to share out of your notes?
Let me look 1 second.
All right.
I'm going to try to stay with the scriptures.
Okay.
One of the things that kept sharing, how we're coming up on Pesach,
Yes.
and that between the evenings thing, and he shares that every year, and that's in Leviticus 23, 4-8, says twilight between the evenings, between sunset and the dawn of a new day, before it's total darkness.
Okay.
And that leaves us, he said, which leaves us about 16 to 24 minutes to slaughter and quarter, to put on the fire. And I was like, wow. So he literally gave us time to prepare for what he commanded. And I was like, that's pretty neat.
That's very neat.
So that was one of the first things that I wrote in the notes from previous year. And then it shows, and he was sharing again about House of Israel and the House of Yaakov. And I was like, okay, here we go again. It was the ones that are obedient, that are going to do. And when he's talking to the House of Israel, it's literally just that state of being, that state of obedience. And I was like, now it starts to make sense. At first I was like, why the difference? But it's just the ones that are obedient, the ones that are choosing not to be obedient.
Yes, indeed.
So
something that's interesting to me, if you've ever participated in slaughtering and butchering animals, that's about how long it takes.
Oh, wow.
That 15 to 20 minutes, you can slaughter it and break it down into quarters. So
when people say things like that, it's like so amazing that he's just so meticulous about what he does.
Yeah.
Order.
In order to do that,
order.
You would have to be familiar with operation, but you don't have to be like the fastest expert ever. It's a reasonable time. You would have to be responsible and prepared, but easily doable.
Yeah.
So
again, thank you. You told me that. I want to write that down.
sure, someone that was fast could do it in a fraction of that time. So
slaughter. I'll definitely share. I like that.
mm-hmm.
So he was given, like any, in essence, like you said, a new person would be able to still comply with what he asked of us. And that's wonderful.
Once they were trained.
Mm-hmm.
The very first time you do it, I don't think you would do so well.
Oh no. But like you said, anything that we, again, like the Holocaust, or when I looked up that word, or it's a total commitment or surrender to him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So once you do it, you're going to do it.
Right. Yep.
That's what we become, is the more we give up what's not really ours anyway, but our will, what we want to say, our free will, to his, we can do exactly what he asked of us with ease and with comfort.
It's very interesting. He does.
Yeah. Okay, that just hit me in the head.
Maybe that's why later in another passage he wrote that he will not tempt you beyond what you can bear, and that he'll provide a way of escape, which is another way of saying what you said.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that total commitment.
Would someone like to read the rest of chapter 1? That would be verses 10 through 17. Go ahead, Mark. Oh, something happened, Mark. We can't hear you. It's breaking up. Want to try again? I think your signal's breaking up, Mark, and your screen is frozen too. Maybe that's on my end. Yeah, I think you're right. We have strong wind. What's that?
I think he's gonna try to come back again.
Yeah, we have really strong winds outside today, so that could be on my end too. Hey, Mark.
Chapter 1.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
It's chapter 1, verses 10 through 17.
And if one's offering is from the flock, from the sheep, or from the goats, for an elevation offering, he shall offer an unblemished male. He shall slaughter it at the northern side of the altar before Hashem, and the sons of Aaron, the Kohanim, shall throw it on the altar all around. He shall cut it into its pieces, its head and its face. The Kohen shall arrange them on the wood that is on the fire that is on the altar. He shall wash the innards and the feet in water. The Kohen shall bring it all and can cause it to go up in smoke on the altar. It is an elevation offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem. If one's offering to Hashem is an elevation offering of fowl, he shall bring his offering from turtle doves or from young doves. The Kohen shall bring it to the altar to nip its head and cause it to go up in smoke on the altar, having pressed out its blood on the altar's wall. He shall remove its crop with its feathers, and he shall throw it near the altar toward the east, to the place of the ashes. He shall split it with its feathers. He need not sever it. The Kohen shall cause it to go up in smoke on the altar, on the wood that is on the fire. It is an elevation offering, a fire offering, a satisfying aroma to Hashem.
Thank you. What I found interesting was no matter what level of income you have, whether you can afford a bull, a ram, an adult male sheep, or like 2 turtle doves, or they're all equally called a soothing fragrance. So, there's a big price difference between buying 2 turtle doves, 2 small birds, and a bull. Like a friend of mine who's driving in rural Missouri years ago, and my buddy had 12 children, so he had a full-sized van, passenger van. He popped up over a hill, and there was a bull in the road, and he hit the bull, and it totaled his van. And he got the farmer come out, and the farmer said, you killed my bull. He's like, that's a $20,000 bull. And my friend said, your bull ruined my $20,000 van. The reason I brought that story up is we're talking about someone that had a very comfortable income that could offer a bull. You know, that same passenger van now would probably be $50,000, $60,000. I don't know what a bull costs, but it's in the tens of thousands for the, so a ram is much less, and then very reasonable 2 turtle doves. So, and there's even one offering that we're going to read about next, which is less expensive than turtle doves if you can't even afford animals, or if you can't catch your own and raise them. So it was really, you know, when they're offering these up, it would have a pleasing barbecue aroma. Okay. Will someone start reading in chapter 2? It looks like verses 1 through 11 are the first kind of paragraph. We'll read about the next classification.
Did you want me to do the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay. Anyone who brings a grain offering to Yahweh is to make his offering of fire flour. He is to pour olive oil on it and put frankincense on it. He is to bring it to the sons of Aharon, the Kohanim. The Kohen is to take a handful of fine flour from it, together with its olive oil and all its frankincense, and make this reminder portion go up and smoke on the altar as an offering made by fire, a fragrant aroma to Yahweh, for Yahweh, forgive me. But the rest of the grain offering will belong to Aharon and his sons. It is an especially holy part of the offerings for Yahweh made by fire. When you bring a grain offering, which has been baked in the oven, it is to consist of either unleavened cakes made of fine flour mixed with olive oil, or matzah spread with olive oil. If your offering is a grain offering cooked on a griddle, it is to consist of unleavened flour mixed with olive oil. You are to break it in pieces and pour olive oil on it. It is a grain offering. If you offer a grain offering cooked in a pot, it is to consist of flour, fine flour with olive oil. You are to bring the grain offering prepared in any of these ways to Yahweh. It is to be presented to the Kohen, and he is to bring it to the altar. The Kohen is to remove the reminder portion of the grain offering and make it go up in smoke on the altar as an offering made by fire, a fragrant aroma for Yahweh. Excuse me. But the rest of the grain offering will belong to Aharon and his sons, and it is especially holy part of the offerings for Yahweh made by fire. No grain offering that you bring to Yahweh is to be made with leaven, because you are not to cause any leaven or honey to go up in smoke as an offering made by fire to Yahweh. Okay.
Very interesting. It's interesting. In my notes, I had it that it's not necessarily honey from bees, but it also includes fruit honey or a thick fruit paste. That's what I was talking about, preserves earlier. Hey, looks like Patrick might be joining us. He's come and gone. But so the the fruit preserves are included in there. Something that's interesting about this, the Most High requires like a unblemished offering if it's an animal. It can't be maimed or harmed or disfigured. When it's a grain offering, it has to be fine ground flour, which is the highest amount of preparation for a grain offering. We lose touch with this because we can buy flour pre-ground today. But if you're grinding your own flour, even if you have a modern crank style grain grinder, you know that it takes the most amount of work to make fine flour. Most often you do a first grind, you take that rough ground and then you put it in and you run it through again to get fine ground flour. And it's a lot of work.
Okay.
That's the most that you have to bring in. You have to bring in your best that you put the most effort into. Hey, Shabbat
Hey,
Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom,
Patrick.
everybody.
Just to catch you up, Patrick, we're in Leviticus.
1, right?
Yeah, Leviticus chapter 1, and right now we're discussing verses 10 through 17, the fine ground flour or fine flour.
Oh, the fine flour. Okay.
Now, out of all of these burnt offerings or offerings of fire, we come to this one, and it's the least amount of money from a bull, a ram, or 2 turtle doves, or this amount of flour. That the cheapest is this amount of flour. And when I looked it up, this is actually a pretty large amount of flour. It gave the size in fluid ounces of 86 to 172 fluid ounces.
Ooh.
So if you're going to bring a grain offering, you're going to spend a little time, if you got a mortar and pestle, grinding flour for this. So you're going to put effort into it, that's for sure.
That'd take a while.
Oh man, especially if you get, you're not just cracking it. You can't just pound it quickly and be done. You got to grind every grain kernel into a fine dust.
That's like 11 pounds. That's a lot. That's like 11 bags of flour. That's a lot.
Yeah. You know how big a 10-pound bag of flour is? It's huge.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah. We did an experiment one time years ago just to see what this would be like. As far as we just got a griddle and we mixed fresh ground flour with olive oil and cooked it on a fire. And it reminded me of pancakes.
Oh, wow.
It smelled really pleasant.
Wow.
Yep.
That's kind of neat.
So we were just trying to do something to have an association with what the offering system would be like. But the olive oil and the grain together just reminded me of pancake bread type of stuff. And you can get frankincense incense sticks. I don't know if it would smell anything like what they had, but it might be similar. You can still buy today, real frankincense comes in like, yeah, it's like stones of frankincense resin.
The resin.
And usually you light a coal and then put it on top to get that kind of incense, but you can still buy it. And it's actually not super expensive to get it that way. So there's your chance to smell real frankincense. Gideon, I like your keep up.
I was noticing it too. I was like, oh.
Cool. Yeah.
It looks so nice.
Look all the way inside.
Oh, cool.
Cool, nice.
It
That's
fits
really
too, huh?
nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Just like your daddy, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
One of the things that I noticed was that it said unleavened.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, any grain offering had to be unleavened. I was like,
Yep.
so the puff up again from I was a good
Yes,
no
indeed.
coming with it.
Uh-huh.
No pride.
Yeah, and it's easy how fast pride creeps in if you're not being diligent after it. And illustration of that is if you're not being diligent to make your bread unleavened, it automatically becomes leavened. When we first started this walk in Torah, and we didn't, we were just super new. And we made unleavened bread, but we didn't bake all the dough right away. And it was during the week of unleavened bread. And so without knowing anything, we put it in a bowl and covered it with saran wrap and saved it to the next day, thinking that that was okay to do. And we made it the next day. I was like, man, this is really soft, unleavened bread. And then when I went to the meeting and I mentioned, I was like, man, you guys should try making your unleavened bread, but like save the dough overnight in the refrigerator will be like tastier. And they're like, that's because it's leavened. I was like, what? Oh, I've been ambushed in my refrigerator. So,
That's funny.
yeah, we thought we'd like discovered some, secret technique. Just leave your matzah in the refrigerator overnight and it's nice and soft. Like, oh, heavens. Yeah.
Funny.
So sneaky stuff, right?
They say leave us to our own devices and we'll change it every time.
Yep. Well, so
It's starting to make sense why he structures everything because we can mess it up real quick.
oh man. Yeah. You don't even make it off the starting block. Run the race sideways. But it's interesting when you stay within this structure, you get course correction.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we went to the meeting with other people that were more experienced, we shared, and they were like, whoa, hey, hold on there a minute. Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry about that, guys. So all kinds of things. As long as this comes up too, and we're kind of talking, we're working towards Pesach. This also qualifies as leavened bread if your bread is in liquid form, otherwise known as beer or malt.
Okay.
A malt, like you would go to ice cream shop and you can get a shake or a malt. You know where that malt comes from? It's roasted grain.
I didn't know that.
Yep. And that when you roast the grain, it develops the sugar in the grain, and that's what gives a malt its flavor. One of my favorites.
Barley?
What's that?
What kind of grain? Barley?
I think it's wheat, actually.
Oh.
Yep. That's the same process. If you take malt, roasted grain that's been cracked and run hot water through it, like you would make coffee, is how they end up with the malt to make beer or a milkshake malt. Either way, by the time they get wet, they're leavened after, 18 to 20 minutes.
So you can't drink beer during days of unleavened bread?
That's true.
Wow. Hadn't thought about that.
Yep. Or the malt drinks, which is why because you can get malt grain drinks from in like the ethnic section of the grocery store. I think they taste terrible. Some people out there must like them because they're still on the store shelves. But just, heads up. Or a malt at Dairy Queen or your local ice cream parlor.
I did not know that. Something malt is from a grain soaked and germinated and then dried.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that.
Offering that you can offer the low leavened bread is that Shavuot, isn't it? When you offer the old grain, you do the wave offering on the grain.
Yes, that's
You bring
true.
the old and the new.
There's some interesting distinctions. What you're saying is true. The only time that leavened bread is part of the offerings is when there's 2 loaves of leavened bread and they're offered on Shavuot, which if you read a Greek New Testament, you might know that that Moedim is Pentecost. But those unleavened loaves are never put on the altar. So we know that leavened bread can never be put up on the altar. We'll read it here in a few minutes. But it's true, and that's what is right now as we're approaching Pesach and the festival of unleavened bread. You go through this process of counting to 50 or 7 weeks. And after the 70 or the sealing of weeks, you arrive at a special holiday in which you on purpose take leavened bread and offer it to the Most High. Not on the altar, but you do a wave offering with it.
Right.
The symbology of like what, it's like every year we go through this process of together as a community, we act out this process together. We built it into our lives, but it's a giant metaphor for what's going on in our heart and in our mind. So it's profound.
That's what the Catholics got the unleavened bread on their Catholic altars.
Okay. Yep. Sure. Hey, they get some things right.
Well, except for I think theirs are man-made altars.
There you have it. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. There's something else that's interesting. All the food offerings are voluntary from verse 1, but also in verse 1, it everyone that brings a food offering or a grain offering near, it says of every soul. In Hebrew, every nefesh that brings grain offering. So even this poorest classification of an offering refers to the soul that brings it. So it doesn't.
Well, that would explain
What's that?
That would explain why I said that would explain why when you like if I was to bring a offering back in the day to the Kohen, that's why he isn't looking at my outer appearance. He's looking at my heart, because
Yeah.
the Most High gave him that ability to see what's in the heart.
Yeah. Can I ask a gentle question?
Sure.
In what day are you referring to?
Back when back in the time of the Mishkan, or even the temple.
Okay.
Yeah, that when your inside was being judged, not necessarily. I mean, now granted, I use that term loosely in respect to if you came in and you're just haphazardly coming in and you have no, you just appear to, you're just there just because, you were taught to bring an offering. Well, naturally, that's not going to be accepted. But if you come outwardly appearing like you're humble and stuff like that, well, the Kohen necessarily isn't looking at that. He's looking to see the matters of the heart.
Yes. And of course, we have access to a Kohen even today.
Right.
Ah. Ha ha ha.
So when you bring an offering, when you bring your offering, what's he looking at?
Your soul. So in my way of thinking, the day that you're referring to is today.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Why not?
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Mhm.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. It's what's beautiful, out of the loving kindness of the Most High, we still have the priesthood with us. Even though the tabernacle or the temple is not standing currently, we still have the priesthood with us.
That's a blessing.
Oh, very
It
much.
really is.
It is a blessing.
Mm-hmm. It's so amazing because you think about 7 billion people exist on this earth, and he's chosen us.
Right.
I mean,
and the Most High put us all.
Yep. He chose us to be atoned for. So
Hallelujah.
like, wow,
And I definitely know is nothing in and of myself.
No,
Mhm.
I
it's
didn't do
not.
anything fancy or worthy.
Nope. And it's just like the 12. They were chosen. He chose. He says, I choose whom I please.
Yeah.
So there was something that he said, okay, I want you to do and get it done before I take my breath of life from you again. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't really want to, but I will if I have to.
Yeah.
So you're gonna take your shoe and stand at the in Gethsemane, huh? Not my shoe.
What's interesting when he says, I will choose whomever I will, that's when you study what surrounds that, it's not necessarily who human beings would choose. It's not always the human's first choice. So too, those of us that are in this walk of Torah, are not before we began this walk, those around us probably would not have picked us out as the most likely candidate.
Wait, and that's and that's funny that when you say that, I've actually been the odd man out in my family.
You've been what?
I've been the odd woman out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, me too.
So I'm like,
Right.
well,
Yeah.
okay.
The last person picked the kickball.
Right.
If you were lucky, you were the last person picked. You might not even be the last.
That's true.
Sure.
But that's
If your whole family is Christian and you come into conviction to walk in Torah, try explaining to your entire Christian family the validity of Torah.
I did one holiday. They literally, I didn't realize that they were gearing for me when I came,
Oh,
and they waited. Oh, she's here. I went to look at her. I'm like, what is going on? And they were all ready. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins.
oh my.
It was about 30, 40 minutes. Just like bing, 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 bing.
Oh, asking you questions?
Mhm.
Okay. Wow.
I was like, oh wow, didn't know I was walking to that, but okay, Father.
Be ready to give an answer, huh?
I was grateful when he did it, when I reflect back, because it let them know. And so again, not unbeknownst, they actually were learning Torah that day.
Wow. Very
Baruch Hashem.
interesting how
It's
that.
that made you all will know it. What's the holiday that most families come together if they don't ever see each other again during the year?
Hanukkah. Christmas.
You know the day that's the most traveled day of the year.
4th of July.
Turkey Day.
Oh, well, yeah, right. Turkey Day.
More families come together on that one day than any time of year.
You know, there's evidence to support that pilgrims who could read and write and speak Hebrew were celebrating Sukkot.
Wow.
I believe
Wow.
that. I believe that they were some of the people that were brought here after they were exiled from Spain,
The remnant?
and their name was changed. They were called Puritans.
Mm.
But it's interesting. Anyway, they were holding a Thanksgiving festival in the
Mhm.
fall.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Wasn't that the Puritans that outlawed Christianity? I mean, at Christmas.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Christmas was outlawed in the colonies.
Absolutely was. Not until the mid 15th century. It was outlawed during in the colonies. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is the only country outside of Israel that the Torah was enacted as legal law.
Yeah.
Wow.
In
Well, and the other
colonies,
thing is,
too.
when was George Washington's first victory over the British? The month and date, December 25th. Why is that? Because they were keeping the British were keeping the feast of Saturnalia.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
they were drunk.
Sure.
And that was George Washington's first victory.
Yeah, that's why Washington thought it was so cool to do his overnight raid on the Hessian soldiers.
Yeah.
Across the Potomac under extremely dangerous, was because they were up all night drinking and partying.
Yep.
And waited until right around sunrise when they were drunk and passed out to go slaughter them.
Sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted.
Right. So, okay. So let's see. Back to we read the beginning of chapter 2. Here's something interesting. In verse 5, we have it. My translation calls it a pan. It's a cooking pan or a griddle. Some translations call it a griddle, so it's a small flat one when I looked this up, when this same word is used as a verb, it means to boil.
Huh.
So there's intense heat interaction going with it. What it's going to be is making a thin, crispy cake, what we would call a matzah or a cracker. And it's going to be relatively thin and more on the hard or crunchy side because it says that you'll break it. Then let's see, in verse 7, it talks about a deep pan, or what we might call a pot. And, you know, it's something interesting about this. The deeper pan is going to make a softer cake or a softer bread, however you want to phrase it.
Mhm.
You know, women still make cornbread in cast iron skillets. It's got a little deeper sidewall.
Yep.
Or if you have a good quality pot or pan, you can bake a cake inside of a pan with a lid on it on top of the stove, which is just an example of making a bread type of substance that's a little thicker than a cracker. So I think that's what it is. It was something that was thicker than a cracker and softer. And then we ended up down there that it's all made as a memorial offering by fire. So I found that to be interesting that we've heard in recent weeks from Rabbi, what does it mean to be remembered?
Speak on behalf.
Yep. I want to read to you guys the word definition that is associated with this. This is from the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon. You can see that. And so if you have a Strong's Concordance, it's number 234. Or if you're using your Ancient Hebrew Lexicon, it's word 2121, and it's in the noun form. So this is from a 3-letter adopted root. Its action is to remember. The concrete meaning is male, as in male and female, it's male. But abstract meaning is a memorial, a recalling of events of the past or to act upon a past event. If you use it as a verb, it means to remember in thought or as a memorial or mention through speech. Also to act or speak on behalf of another. And then here we go with our usage as a noun, means memorial, a remembering an action based on a past event. Or number 2 meaning is a male, the one of the family that remembers and passes down the family history through story and family name. Also, the one who acts and speaks for the family. Or number 3, a ram, the male member of the flock. It's an Aramaic word. It's used 107 times. So, and it has 3 different Strong's numbers for the same Hebrew word. Anyway, I thought that was worth sharing with you guys.
Thank you.
That was cool.
Yeah. Would someone like Patrick?
So the ram was the leader. Huh?
What's that?
I said, so the ram was the leader, huh?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yep. Which it's going to be of your of a human family. It's going to be up to the men to speak on behalf of the group
Mhm.
Right.
as who was it? Joshua, who said, "As for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. May He be
Mhm.
blessed."
Right. Absolutely. Huh. Now, wasn't the purpose of the fowl offerings, wasn't that for um wasn't that for if you didn't have the money for the sheep or the bull, you could bring a pigeon, turtle doves, or fowl for that.
That's what I understand.
Okay.
And if you can't afford fowl doves, you can bring flour for a meal offering.
Okay, that's where I was gonna go next. Well, 'cause I never really heard, I don't know, maybe I just missed it, but I never really heard as far as like the grain offerings, other than when you're offering them with the meal offering. I never really heard why, because you don't really think about it when you're reading it until you get to like right here, and then it mentions separately the grain offering, or you know what I mean, that offering, and it's like, to me, it just kind of was like, okay, well, what's going on?
Well, what I understand is no matter who you are in society, the Most High has designed a place for you in His Torah to have your guilt atoned for and your sins forgiven. Even if you're the lowest on the economic scale, you barely have any money, you can bring some flour and fully participate. And not only that, but of the poorest of the poor who bring flour, that's where it's used the word about their soul or their nefesh.
Right.
So,
And that makes sense. That would make sense, because not everybody is going to have the resources to bring bulls and sheep, and
what was it that Yeshua said when the poor widow brought in the two tiniest coins?
she gave more than all of them.
Mhm.
And here we have it from the Torah.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah. Well, and that show, to me, I mean, and I guess the way that I kind of look at it, or not the kind of way I look at it, but the way I'm looking at it is we talk about character. We talk about, it's mentioned about his name is his character and stuff like that. But this is specifically spells out his character,
Yeah.
because there's a way for everybody to settle up with the Most High,
Yes.
and that would only be possible from
Right.
him.
Awesome. Who will read in chapter 2, verses 12 through the end of the chapter 16, please?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You shall offer then a first fruit offering to Yahweh, but they may not go upon the altar for a satisfying aroma. You shall salt every meal offering with salt. You may not discontinue the salt of your Elohim's covenant from upon your meal offering. On your every offering shall you offer salt. When you bring a meal offering of the first grain to Yahweh from ripe ears, parched over fire, round plump kernels, shall you offer the meal offering of your first grain. You shall put oil on it and place frankincense on it, a meal offering. The Kohen shall cause its memorial portion to go up in smoke from its flour and its oil, as well as frankincense, a fire offering to Yahweh.
So here we have the instruction to offer it with salt. In the salt covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything about that in your notes, Hannah? I'm just curious.
I'm literally trying to find it because I know he's taught that. I'm like, okay. Looking for the word.
Okay,
Well, it purifies.
yes,
And-
it does.
And one of the things too, it preserves.
Right. Yeah, that's actually what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It and kind of like with us, you know, it sustains us, you know.
Mhm.
So if we're constantly being reminded of that fruit of the spirit being producing and reproducing, that's why, you know, salt does just that. It
Right.
keeps things preserved so that they can continue where
Oh,
they would stop without it, you know.
and that's why we can't bear just any fruit. It has to be the fruit that remains.
Unto him. Right. And you're reminded of the covenant every time you grab the salt to offer it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a continual reminder.
Hey.
That's who we are.
We're quick forgetters, man. We're quick forgetters.
And then salt roads too.
Yes, it does. Yeah, anyone that lives up north knows that salt corrodes,
Yes, it does.
rusts out all the vehicles. So at the same time, if you're not walking in harmony with the Torah, with the Most High, then his salt is corrosive to you.
Mm. Kash v'shalom.
What's that?
Kash v'shalom. May it not be.
Right. Man, that's deep.
Yeah. May it not be.
So here's an interesting something that relates to what we're talking about. One preserves and it also corrodes at the same time. The time of Yaakov's trouble is also the same time when all of Israel will be saved.
Huh.
I found that verse this week. That's funny you said that. I was going to share it with Rebbe in my reading this week.
Yeah.
I find it. I made a note of it. I was like, oh my goodness. It's Jeremiah 30, 1 through 4, because I had never read that. And I was like, what?
Just a second. Let me write that down. Jeremiah 30.
Yeah.
1 through 4.
You want to read that, please?
Sure. I'll go to it.
Okay, I'll turn there too.
I was like, wow. You know, we hear it and say it, and it's like, wow, here it is.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask him about it when he gets back too, because I was like, okay, that's that. I'm almost there.
Me too.
I'm one page from it. I'm at 29. Okay. Let me know when everybody's there.
I'm ready. How about the rest of you?
Sure. I am there.
We're waiting. Yep, that was one of the things that I was going to share, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. Okay, go ahead, Hannah.
Okay. It says, this is the word that came to Yirmiyahu from Elohim, saying, thus saith the Elohim, Yahweh of Israel, saying, write down for yourself all these things that I'm telling you into a book. For see that the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I will return the captivity of my people Israel and Yehuda, said Yahweh, and I will return them to the land that I gave their forefathers, and they will possess it. These are the things that the Lord, that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and concerning Yehuda. So I'm gonna return them. I'm gonna preserve them.
Yeah.
So again, the house of Israel.
Yes.
And one thing that and he told me, not yet, Yehuda, because I'm starting to see Yehuda a lot as a remnant. And so I'm like, where are they gonna come from? Who are they? So, because I know Yehuda is praise. And then, it said, remember that scripture where it says the scepter will remain with the house of Yehuda. So I'm like, there's something that.
And it's Israel and Yehuda who will come back together. The two sticks.
So I'm okay. Who are these people and where are they?
Very, very interesting.
Yes. Yeah, Father, you said it. There's obviously some that are going to, they remain with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, guys, we made it through first a couple chapters. We're at 3 o'clock. You want to take a lunch break now and come back here in a little bit, and we'll go over chapters 3, 4, and 5.
All right.
All right. So come back in 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. All right.
All right. And